Yeah, two on the outside of my seams with my head forward like that, with like a crew cut. Look very, very simple. She was laughing her head off.
You look very simple.
Yeah.
Believe it or
not,
photos of the
yeah.
best.
Yeah. I
Me
can't see
looking
it.
simple.
Yeah. Are we
Glad
on?
I grew out of that.
We are recording.
It's game
Yep.
time. Guys, welcome to episode 37, JB Podcast. We didn't record last week. Apologies. It was a massive weekend. It got away from us, but we're here now. We're doing the thing. And I guess before we get into it...
I was sick.
Paul was sick. T was going on holidays. I was the only man holding down the fort, and I didn't know how to press record. But quick shout out to our boy Tree at Panavore Cafe, who provide us the coffee that we're drinking today. Thanks, homie.
Thank you.
Great egg sandwich down there. I always say it. But we're junglebrothers.com. If you want to get in touch with us, you can also find us on Instagram at Jungle Brothers Movement. We've got a bunch of cool shit going on. If you want to talk about any of your training needs, get in touch. Today there's three of us. We've got myself, Paulie, and brother Jarrod Thatcher.
Yo.
Welcome, homie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Jarrod's a staff member of the gym. Do you want to tell us what you do here?
Yep. So my role here is doing the soft tissue work. So it's called active release technique. Basically, it's just a type of sports massage that I've specialised in. And yeah, I treat the injuries and tight members and stuff like that, and complement that with some exercise and whatever else.
Are you the head of that department in the gym here?
I'm the only one who does it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah. We haven't met, but I'm Jarrod.
I'm Paul.
Nice to meet you.
Paul's one of the owners here.
Is he?
Yeah. Jarrod works downstairs.
I heard you're doing good things down there, on level, on the ground level.
In the basement. yeah.
In the dungeon.
Yeah, Jarrod's room that he's operating out of has received some upgrades in recent months. There was promise of air conditioning for a long time. The air conditioners were installed maybe after 12 months or something. You got them.
We got there.
There's no longer an ice box in the winter and a hot box in the summer. Let's see.
Look, yeah, it's coming together. It's nice. It's more than I need, so it's not like a normal massage place where we got the nice candles and aromas and locks on the doors and clean tables.
We
and stuff
exercise
like
the
that.
demons out of there, though, for you.
You exercise the demons?
Out of that office. It's a peaceful place.
It is.
A few rugs on the wall.
Yep.
You'll be right. How long have you been practicing ART for? Or like when did you study and become qualified with this particular technique?
7 years ago or so. Took a while to get trained in it fully. So I did that over the course of 18 months or 2 years, and then started to specialise more in that instead of PT and strength training. And then...
So there was a transition time where you were qualified and you were still PTing and you were seeing some people, but you hadn't started doing that exclusively?
Yeah, I was kind of consolidating my skills and getting better over time, so treating my own clients.
Yep.
There's my reputation, grew as someone who could do it. There was a transition where I'd start seeing more people.
Yep.
And really specialised in it after that, and then took on a full-time role for 3 years at a gym in Redfern. I was head of treatment there, and I've been at Jungle Brothers for a year now, so it's really specialised in what I do, I suppose. Yeah.
What was the original idea? Because you were PTing before that, so strength coaching, that kind of thing.
Yep.
What was was there a common goal that you were looking to help people get out of pain or become fitter or move better that ended up taking you to ART exclusively? Or, I mean, you obviously incorporate a bit of strength work in what you do now, but did you find that was a better tool for you to use to help people, or was it just kind of...
Interest, like a...
Yeah, and skill set and maybe,
I got treatment for a soft tissue injury that I had that nobody else could fix. So it looked increasingly likely that I was going to have to get surgery. There was a lot of specialists who had no idea what was happening. Then I saw an active release technique therapist in the city called Mike Badke. And he's been like a mainstay in ART for a long time. He's probably the best known in Sydney. And he was able to fix it. It wasn't immediate, but after 10 treatments or so, I was back running. I was back lifting, doing everything I wanted.
Where was the pain? What was the general issue?
It was just a overuse injury of the hip, and I was getting some rubbing on a ligament right near the pelvis. And he said there was just a lot of irritation there. So it was just a matter of releasing all the surrounding structures and stuff like that. And then when he explained it and I learned more about the technique, conceptually it made a lot of sense to me. It was very dense, the amount of stuff to learn, but the modality made sense to me as something that would work. And so I just decided to become a massage therapist and specialize in that immediately. I didn't know where it would go when I first did it, but it just really interested me. So that's kind of just happened organically on the back of that. Just decided to do it straight away.
That became your thing.
Yeah.
How does it, for the people listening who might not know the difference, actually I don't know the difference between ART and let's say, what are some of the other words, like trigger point therapy or myofascial release or even remedial massage or sports massage? Can you give us a bit of comparison there as to how it actually works?
Yeah, I would say it's just a lot more in-depth, and active release technique takes a lot of motion while drawing tension on the structure. So that's where the active comes into active release technique. And as far as the rest of it goes, it's just a lot more in-depth. So any soft tissue structure that you can influence with touch, it tends to have a protocol for it. So there's over 500 protocols for the body. That's even before doing a lot of the ones where you'd influence two structures at once.
Right.
Yeah, it's just really in depth. But that includes nerve entrapments and a lot of the little finicky muscles.
So it's not just kind of stab in the dark. Let's just poke around in the sore area, get you to move a little bit. There's a body of work behind it that you as a practitioner can reference and.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you need your own assessment protocols. So active release technique therapists will probably assess really differently because there's no standard for that, but they give you the bare bones on how to influence everything. So a lot of chiros have done active release technique, and osteos, physios, massage therapists, and they incorporate it into what they do. So mine incorporated with a strength training background, I suppose.
Yeah, okay. That brings me to my next question, which is, well, maybe not a question, but I guess a general gripe that I have with bodywork. Over the years, I've seen a bunch of different specialists, physios, chiros, osteos, whatever. Ever since for as long as I can remember, right? Playing soccer as a kid, had a back thing, had a hip thing. You go see someone, and from what I remember growing up, you would go to a doctor, or you could go to a physio, or you could go to a chiro.
And that's it.
That was kind of it, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't really have any experience with chiros, but they were the ones that all the other people always hung shit on. So I was like, don't go to chiros, mate. Chiros will fucking take your money and that sort of thing. And then you go to physios, and they seem good, but some of the physios I went to was real airy, and I'm like, I don't actually know if anything's changing here. Anyway, cut to now, and say for the last sort of 10 years, being pretty serious with my training and with jiu-jitsu and stuff, I've seen a lot, and it's like I go to a physio or an osteo or something at least a few times a year because there's little niggles that need to be fixed and whatever.
Yeah.
And what I still can't reconcile who is good and who is not. For me, it comes down to the individual. But I find that I can't say that discipline's good, that discipline's not.
Yeah.
Can you talk on that? Because because it's such a big field, and I'm guessing that you're operating within this. You're dealing with people who have also had a similar experience to me.
Yeah, I think it's a good observation. It's very much down to the practitioner as opposed to the modality, in my opinion. So what you said about chiros having a bad reputation, I think everyone's heard that to a degree. But then in the same breath, a lot of chiros are the ones who I've learned the most things that I've applied to my business off. So a lot of the best practitioners for ART are chiropractors, and they integrate that into what they do, or integrate ART into what they do, and their product's really complete. Whereas people who might have just graduated and chose not to do any critical thinking or look at other modalities or are very stuck in their ways, they might not be as good and might not be getting the same results, and they're seeing people every 5 minutes and they're adjusting and going on to the next person. So I just think it's down to the practitioner, not the modality.
Can I ask for a definition or to better understand what the different modalities are?
Sure.
For instance, like chiro, I haven't seen probably as many as you have, Joe, which doesn't mean I haven't had as many niggles along the way. Along the way, but I just, I didn't see them for a long time. I was the type of person who ignored a lot of it for a long time and kind of came into the consciousness of what was going on a lot later. So I still find it very confusing. I don't know who to go to for a particular thing. So I know lots of people know a lot less than me. That's like, this is aching or this is tight. It's like, okay, I usually come and ask you, Joe, or I'll ask T or something like that and say, well, who do you think I should see? So chiros.
You see Jarrod now.
Now I see Jarrod.
Right, but we're talking prior to J-Rod.
That's your safest bet. And failing that, we can go through what the others do.
Yeah. What is a chiro? What is their modality is concerned with what? And I think
manipulations through the spine and joints.
Yeah.
Which will influence nerves. Yeah. So that's how they'd be defined. And then a physio would be a lot more musculoskeletal.
Yeah.
And then an osteo would be a bit of both. And then a massage therapist is fully soft tissue.
Fully soft tissue.
Yeah.
Osteo's a bit of both.
Osteos will do adjustments and they'll influence muscles. They look at the body a little bit differently. So they'll look from bottom to top in assessment. So they spend a lot of time at the feet and then they work their way up. And generally, other practitioners would work from the top down or go straight to the point and work back from the point that's causing the problem. So if someone came in with a back injury, they'd look there and then look at the hips and the knee next and then work their way back.
And what about you? I know, where does ART concern themselves? Do you go to
like
the
I
point?
Said
I think you go above and below, don't you?
Yeah, I like the looking above and below and surrounding joints. I think you can find out a lot from looking at that. But again, like I said before, the assessment protocols that I use has just been a collection of the best things that I found.
You've also studied other stuff too, yeah?
Yeah.
What else? You did FMS.
I did FMS a long time ago.
Functional movement screen.
Yep.
Gray
Cook. I've done SFMA, which is the practitioner version of that. I really like that. I use a lot of those techniques in my practice now. And then just all kinds of a lot of short courses related to assessment and lifting and influencing structures and whatever.
What are you studying now?
I've gone back.
You've gone back.
I'm at TAFE and I'm doing a diploma in massage, but that's as a means to an end to get a provider number.
Yeah.
So
for insurance, people can claim on their health insurance.
Yeah.
So people want it.
Yeah, I think financially it's going to be a good thing to do.
How long does that take? You're doing part-time, full-time?
Nothing happens quickly at TAFE. Yeah, even the doors that are automatic open slower. So it's going to take 18 months.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's teaching me a lot of patience.
Is that part-time? It's the only time? It's just one
whatever,
speed?
yeah.
It's TAFE time.
Yeah, it's one speed. It's first gear. It's 3 days a week, but I've get a lot of prior standing for a lot of the subjects.
Yeah.
And then there's practical and clinic where you'll practice on people to come in and people get cheap massages. So, and you practice the techniques we're taught in class.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which I will never use.
So,
I might. But
I want to jump into an experience that I had where I realized, it was an unsatisfying experience with a practitioner, not yourself, Jarrod.
Oof.
Luckily.
Yeah, I'm not here for that.
Yeah, it was with a, and I'll preface this with, it was with a chiropractor, but I'll preface this with I have one particular friend or couple who are chiropractors who are exceptional at what they do, and I really respect their work and their approach to the whole thing. But this other chiropractor, he actually came through the gym. He started training with us. It was a long time ago. He was a friend of a friend. She had said to me, he's a really good chiro. I've been going to him for years. He fixes me whenever I'm messed up. And she had this ongoing issue always with her back. And I was like, fuck, he must be pretty good, whatever. Anyway, and occasionally I get a bit of a back thing. If it just maybe once a year, twice a year from jiu-jitsu, I just get my lower back just gets a bit tight and uncomfortable, and I go in and it gets sorted out. I went to see this fella, and the first time I went to see him, he's like, "Oh, what happened?" And I explained to him what happened, and he was working with footy teams or something, so he had an understanding of this body to body contact and kind of a wrestling type situation. And he did some manipulations and they were fine, and the problem kind of resolved after maybe 2 sessions, and it was good. Anyway, 6 months later, I had something else happen, and it was just another niggling thing. I'm like, I'll go see fella and get it fixed up. And I went in and said, hey man, I got a thing going on my back. And he was like, yep, no worries at all, man. Okay, cool, come in. All right, yep, hop on the table. And he just started going to work. He just started doing the same thing that he did to me the other time.
Yeah.
And he ran me through 3 or 4 basic manipulations. And he didn't ask me what the problem was, and he didn't really, I could tell it was he just applied the same template that he applied the first time with me, only the first time we had a little chat about it first. So it seemed like this is a custom treatment based on the information you've given me. And I was like, this kind of light bulb went off in my head, and I'm like, motherfucker, dude, just put me through the standard template, and it took him fucking 7 minutes and, whatever, and then he was out of there. And it didn't resolve the problem. And I think I was like, I'll give it another go. I went back maybe 1 or 2 times, sort of wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, and nothing had changed. It was the same shit. And I was like, yeah, okay, he's not a good practitioner. That was not a good experience. Anyway, it kind of jaded me, right? And I was just like, fuck. That was, and I got a couple, I'm going to go into them later, but that was one of those ones where I'm like, I feel like this dude's a shoddy practitioner. Talk to me about this idea of, and we have it within PT, but practitioners out there who are doing a shit job.
Yeah. Well, what you just said, I think we can all fall into that to some degree, which is falling back into what you know and what you think solves everything. And I think PTs do it. If they're not conscious, they're going to do the same program with everyone. I think it's really just a case of that. He's not thinking, he's not trying, and he's just falling back into what's easiest for him, what he knows, and it might solve the problems of 50% of the people that come in, but the rest are going to be really disgruntled by it. But like I said before, it's totally down to the practitioner. Yeah. So you need someone who's willing to assess and think about it critically, put the time into it, and you're going to get a decent result if they know what they're doing.
Yep.
Whereas if they're just doing a cookie cutter treatment for everyone, then of course people are going to get disgruntled. But
yeah, it makes sense. I guess it's a good point. You probably, the way you put it, it's not quite as, it makes him out not to be such a bad, it is a bit of a default thing. Yeah, it is a bit of a laziness thing, and perhaps it happens when we get a bit busy. But I don't know. I find the manipulations thing, if they're not necessary, I don't want to do them. I don't want someone to crack my neck and crack my back if they don't believe it to be really essential to fixing the problem at hand. It feels like the kind of thing you don't want to do too much of it.
Yeah, it's daunting, especially if you're going in there to get your neck cracked. Might not be for the chiropractor because they do it 20 times a day, but this is your first manipulation in 2 years. You'd appreciate some assessment before he goes in and whacks your neck. So, yeah, I think that just comes back to taking a bit more time and assessing properly and not falling back into what they know, and maybe a gripe that some people have with chiropractors is they just churn and burn through people.
Yeah.
So they fit in 6 people in an hour.
Yep.
Couple of manipulations, see you next week, which I think's evolving. So you see a lot of great chiros out there, and they're some of the best people at fixing problems. But that old school mentality is starting to become very dated, and people are too savvy for that now.
Yeah, right. The market is becoming more educated about it.
Yeah, exactly. People see on Instagram and social media different modalities fixing people.
Yeah.
It's very accessible to go find a different practitioner, so it's a competitive market.
Yes, okay. There's more options for sure.
Yeah. It's good for broken people.
It's good for broken people. It's a good time to be broken.
There's a lot of broken humans out there.
Yeah, and there's never been a better time to be broken.
Do you think with what you do, because you don't do manipulations, right? You just do soft tissue work. Do you think, like, would you like to have the ability to do some manipulations? Would you see that as a good complement to what you do? Or do you believe that sort of most things can be resolved through working the soft tissues?
That's a good question. I think there's always a place for manipulations for some people. So often people that need that, I'll refer out. When I feel it's outside of what I can do, then I'll refer them on to a good chiro who I think will figure it out, or a good osteo, or whatever seems to fit. Or if they need to go see a sports doctor or get a scan, it's just really dependent on what I see. But I'm very specialised, so it's soft tissue or nothing.
Bro, can you tell me, what is a manipulation?
Yeah, it's just an adjustment of a joint. So
what happens mechanically there? I know that that's not your field, but I saw an osteo once, and it was an adjustment, but I haven't really had much experience with it.
Paul used to be 5 foot tall. One session, look at him now.
Oh wow,
correct.
Yeah, he sounds good.
Never needed to go back.
Yeah,
like when they're adjusting it,
they're saying it's aligning it.
Okay.
So function's broken down because of misalignment in the joint.
Yep.
So them moving it.
Yep.
And placing it back where they want.
Example
or
of
cracking.
Like in a joint. Can you like an example?
Like if you did it
typical
in
one,
the SI joint or the lower back.
Yep.
Sometimes that can
lock up,
and it's really common. And this is why a lot of people swear by their chiros, is because they'll feel jacked up through their SI joint. They'll go see them, crack, places it straight back into place, and it won't bother them again for 3 or 4 weeks. And they go like, great, I can live with that. Let's just do that. And
then it slips back in.
Well,
out of place.
Yeah, if there's a dysfunction or structurally they're just a little bit out and it pulls out over the course of those 3 or 4 weeks, then it needs to get adjusted again.
So I'm trying to get an understanding, like with the different practitioners out there, the different disciplines, which one of them, as part of their practice, are the ones that prescribe something towards fixing the cause? I think it's physios, but I guess because you've said to me, like, you can study ART and you've got practitioners there who have multiple licenses and have studied a few different things, and they make their own practice and their own processes. But if we were just to boil it down to the individual disciplines, which one of them in cases, all right, fix their immediate problem, and then, we assess and we look to try and give them some exercises to address the cause? Because I know you do stuff like that where necessary, because you've got the PT background. And I know I've had experience with physios, but, they never give you that. Like, they've got to... They give you the same three
fucking
exercises.
heavy bench press.
No, they don't give you benchies.
I mean, but that fixes everything. They're just missing something.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I'm saying? Is it physios that do that only as part of the practice of studying physiotherapy?
No.
Or is it optional for them as well?
I think everyone's trying to get to the root cause. So even though people will go straight after where the person's in pain, I think most practitioners will try to influence that to some degree, depending on how acute it is.
But I guess I mean ongoing. So like, say for instance, I'd go in, something's really tight, I get it massaged. That particular therapist won't necessarily say, I think it was caused, can I assess how you're walking? I think it's caused by this, you need to strengthen up the glute or whatever. We don't get that part. That's what I'm kind of asking, like, which you get a little bit from a physio, but not a great deal. Am I right?
I think that's
no
wrong.
follow-up.
I think any practitioner worth their weight will have a treatment plan and have an idea of what's causing it, and the goal is to undo it. And that could be chiro, osteo, physio, massage therapist, or whatever, PT. But anyone who's really good and can see that problem being resolved will try to resolve it. I don't think it's a modality thing.
That's super interesting because, I would say in my experience, it's only ever been physios that I've been to who have been like, oh, hey, like that's the treatment part. Now let's talk about what I want you to do, the exercise I want you to do outside of here. But like thinking back to like, and again, I say, when I've been to those practitioners that I kind of don't rate, then they haven't taught you shit. They've never said, hey, I want you to do this. They just tell you when to come back.
Yeah, I do think it's practitioner dependent, not modality.
It is. Okay.
You know what I find really, really weird in those situations, and I had this with a good chiro. Actually, he was recommended to me by a friend, and he was good. He asked a lot of good questions. He was genuinely trying to help me, but he couldn't fix the problem that I had at the time. That's a bigger story, which I'm going to lay on you later. But
Can't wait.
Oh, it's a big one, guys. Fucking hold your breath. But he and this might sound, I don't know, I hope this doesn't sound wanky or something, but
too late.
He's working with bodies and he's trying to restore movement and health. And I go to his clinic, and his clinic was in a little office building in a pokey little office space. And I remember I spent a lot of time in there because I'd see this guy once a week for like a few months. And he had horrible artificial fluorescent lighting in there. And he's a big, tall guy. I think he used to play rugby. But he's wearing like a business shirt, and it's tucked into business trousers and a belt. And he's got these pointy black shoes on. And he's in this cramped little office. And he's living like he's living so far out of alignment with the natural environment and what his body... And obviously, he can't practice in the park, right? He can't practice in the bush. You got to have a controlled environment. You got to have a roof over your head, whatever. But he wasn't even wearing clothes where he could show me an exercise. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm guessing the choice of clothing was
because he works in the city.
Yeah, and it's portraying professionalism because I wear a button-up shirt. But it's like, man, you got a button-up shirt, it's tucked in. You can't put your arms over your head in a shirt like that. You can't fucking show me a correct push-up technique or a squat pattern or whatever, right? So I'm like on one side, I really liked what he was doing, but on the other side, I'm like, this whole environment that I'm in right now, getting advice from this expert, just seems alien.
It's making my joints ache.
Yeah, I was like, this is not, and I could tell he was tired, and it was not a fun place for him to be in, fucking working for 12 hours a day. So I was just like, have we specialized so much that we've isolated these disciplines, and they now live in these kind of little isolated environments away from what people are really doing? I had a real problem with that. And then that made it harder for me to believe in what he was telling me.
Again, I think it's really difficult. He can't have a whole gym for him to operate out of. Like if he only needs a table in a room and it's only got to be, 4 meters by 4 meters, he can keep his overheads low and do his work.
Yeah.
It's difficult to show exercises and stuff, but I think the best places tend to be those integrative practices where you can go off the table and go do some exercise. But that's not to say he's not going to be really good and that he can't fix the problem at hand if he's really skilled. So I just think that's just what he's dealt. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not his fault.
No.
I'm not blaming the guy. I was just like, this is kind of fucked.
Nerd wearing a button-up shirt and stupid shoes.
Yeah,
And to a degree, he's trying to meet his clients where they are at culturally.
Yeah, they don't want to see a dude in a T-shirt and tracky pants, right? No shoes, right?
You're living the life.
Movement guy.
Yeah.
Like,
ponytail.
Cut your fucking toenails.
Too real.
Yeah. The other thing though, and this was a complaint this is a general complaint that I have about specialists, and and I try to pass this on to my clients and the members of our gym all the time. I preach it all the time, and I think this is a really big takeaway. But he'd ask me, I had a problem with my wrists at the time, and he's like, "Oh, what
was
do
it
you?"
an overuse injury?
Just on one, dick. It was a where the fuck was I? I had this wrist problem, right? And the boys just bumped fists. Losers. I had this overuse injury, and I didn't even have an overuse injury. You just fucking made me say that. I had a problem,
I'm gonna cut
right?
that, snip it out.
Just snip that shit out.
Can't get wanking off the mind now, yeah.
And he said to me, "Oh, well, what are you doing? Like, what does your training look like?" And I said, "Oh, look, I train jiu-jitsu a couple of days a week, and I'm into this movement thing. So I'm doing a bit of hand balancing, and I'm crawling around on the ground, and I'm lifting some weights." And he was like, "Oh, okay. What's jiu-jitsu entail?" And I was like, "All right, well, I'm kind of trying to describe jiu-jitsu to the guy." And he's like, "Oh, that sounds pretty full on, you know?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess it is." And then he's like, "And what about like the hand balancing and stuff?" And so I showed him. I'm like, "Oh, well, we do this for wrist prep, and this is a handstand." And he's like, "Mate, that's fucking crazy. Like, you can't be doing that on your wrists." And it's the first time he's ever seen someone do whatever. You know, some of the exercises that we do here as part of our warm-up with every fucking member in the gym. Palm push-ups or fin push-ups or something to prepare the wrist. And I'm like, all right, so you're so far disconnected from what it is that I do, and I don't expect you to know everything, but how can you treat me if you already think that what I'm doing is kind of off the scale of what's possible? And I found that the big takeaway there is go and see someone who fucking knows what it is that you're doing with your body. Someone that knows what your training looks like and what it actually entails.
Fully. I think your beliefs on how the body works needs to align in some degree, and you need to believe in the treatment. It'd be the same if he did something and you're like, the fuck's he doing? What's the point of that? And he's thinking that about your training. It will just never work. You need to be believing in the treatment you're getting. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. And there's heaps of data to support that. So
how does someone
placebo.
How does someone go about establishing that when they get a treatment? Then when they go see someone, you know, say we got someone who's listening who, let's take like one of our members, Haley, who does lira, like circus lira. So most people wouldn't even know what a lira is, right? So it's like she hangs off this hoop and does, you know, awesome acrobatic stuff. So she has a shoulder problem and she goes to see someone. How does she establish in that initial conversation what it is that she does, and can you work with this?
I've treated Haley and I still don't know what lira is.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Who's Lyra? Yeah, well, I think it must come down to practitioner to practitioner, and that's all in the consult, and then, you know, being able to get along and try to understand and be empathetic to other people, other things they do. Because I could never have known what a handstand was, and I believe I'd be able to try and. It sounds like he was like so much amazed by it and shocked, but I you'd be able to kind of like.
I mean, I got
be
skills, right?
More, yeah, for sure. He's jumped up into a little handstand.
Yeah, one arm, whatever you want.
You listen to their story and you spend the first period listening and just asking more questions like we do here.
Probing.
But
that's, I mean, and I guess the tricky part is that if a practitioner, you know, when you step into that relationship, so I step into your office and you're the expert and I'm the client, and fuck, I got 30 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever it is, and the practitioner is dictating the pace of what we're doing, and the practitioner doesn't ask, then the person often doesn't have the confidence to say, "Oh, hey man, just before you start like laying your hands on me and shit, can we just talk about what do you actually know about what it is the fuck that I do?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I find that's kind of awkward, and I found myself in that situation with all sorts of specialists, ear, nose, and throat specialists, and, you know, fucking big bicep specialists and all that kind of stuff. You know, you go to see them and it's like, there's no time for that, and they're not, like, they don't make it, and so you don't have it, and you walk out and you're like, oh, that was fucked.
It's tough with the time, though, as well. I have that with GPs a lot. GPs who turn people over a lot in, public practices.
They're fucked. Some of them. I
So,
shouldn't say that.
and they're dealing with a lot of people, and a lot of people tend to go to GPs for like a common group of issues. A lot of colds, a lot of flus, and they get into that rhythm, and they've got heaps of people waiting out the front and whatever. Maybe they're underpaid, underappreciated there, so they're just, they never really stop to ask you intimately, like, what's the background to how this has happened.
I think it's really difficult
It's
for
hard.
GPs.
Yeah, they're super hard.
Because they're just under the pump.
They're under the pump, but
Yeah.
they've got to be across everything to a degree.
It's true.
But ultimately, if you've got a very specific problem, all you want from the GP is hopefully to be able to point you in the right direction
Something
to
more
the specialist.
specific. Yeah.
But yeah, they get chastised a lot for not knowing enough about health and nutrition and exercise. But I mean, they know a lot of stuff that's a lot more pressing at that time.
Yep.
That could probably save lives. So it'd be good if they were more up on those things, but it's not paramount. Like, people can get that information from everywhere else. So
Yep.
I think their job is really hard, and
Do better.
they got to do better.
Do better.
Do better, be better. But I mean, you've got to, I think people need to manage their expectations with what a GP does.
Yeah.
People go into a GP asking for medicine most of the time.
Yeah.
So if you get someone who's really into health, who doesn't want medicine,
Yeah.
it throws them off. Like, this is just a small bubble we live in.
Yeah.
Is exercise and training and holistic approach to things. But most people who go in there are chronically sick and just want the medication. So I think
So
they
the-
get a little bit disillusioned.
So the onus then really is on the individual going to that doctor or to that specialist.
I think so.
The onus is to set your expectations, but also make sure you kind of get across what it is that you need.
Fully.
Or get across what it is that your expectations are.
Fully. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
think, people get upset when they're given medicine straight away for some things that maybe you could manage yourself.
Yeah.
But they're just trying to solve that problem as quick as possible. And that's usually what most people want. So they're just trying to work for the masses.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, to lower blood pressure, it might be better to exercise and eat better. But most of the people who have high blood pressure going in there don't want to do that.
Yeah, then the reality of them actually doing that's quite slim.
Yeah.
Can I ask another question, practitioner?
Enough with the fucking questions.
Sorry, man. I
Yeah.
just need to understand
What
this
you got?
field. What is an exercise physiologist, and how long have they been around for?
Man, who knows?
Bro.
Nah,
They're coming out of the woodwork.
Because
Yeah.
EPs.
It's
Because I
just
really
kind of a
honestly-
personal trainer from university training, I would say, but they work
Yes.
with a lot more specific and more difficult problems. So they have a much deeper understanding of the body.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I figured
and
they are.
They'll work with a lot of, like I said, very specific things. So people who've been in accidents, people who've had strokes,
Yep.
injuries, hip replacements, knees, stuff like that. That's kind of like when their when their rehab's going to go more so to exercise than treatment, then a
Yes.
physio might pass the person on to an exercise physiologist.
Yes.
That's the best way I can sum it up, I guess.
They seem to operate out of a kind of that hybrid sort of gym/practitioner space, don't they?
Yeah.
Where they're more focused on the former, like doing a lot of the training, but it's very specific and customized.
It's very rehab based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Transition point.
You guys have never seen one
No.
not before?
But I know a lot.
Yeah, okay. And do they tend to have their own practices, or do they work out? I'm wondering because they seem like the physio that I never saw, like a physio, like a really great physio who kind of bridges the gap that I thought I needed filling in the past when I've gone to see one, with more follow up and more of a program and some exercises that aren't kindergarten level.
What was your question?
Yeah, what was my question? Where do they operate out of? Where can I Are they accessible? Like if I hurt my ankle,
get
can
the
I go
yellow
see an
pages,
EP?
bro.
Yeah. Okay.
Fucking.
You could Google
I
it
could Google
for
it,
sure,
yeah.
but they work a lot out of those hybrid spaces where you'd
Looks
have
like
a chiro,
looks like a
physio,
little gym. Yeah.
and they got a little gym.
Yeah.
So there's usually one or two in there. A lot of them have done the exercise physiology thing
Yes.
and are working at a box gym and just doing PT, but they use that as maybe a selling point because they find a lot of EPs have found that they'll just make more money and it's a little bit less monotonous to just work as a PT
Yep.
as opposed to an EP where you get a lot of hard cases and things happen a lot slower, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a. I like it. I think. I mean, I've not been to one, but I think if they're kind of, you know, they're usually in the training realm themselves. They're lifting. They're from what I know a couple, and they're, you know, I could be generalizing just based off that small cross section, but they're training a lot. They're very physical, and they're treating people. And I'm immediately drawn towards a practitioner that trains.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, you get it. You train a lot. You push your body. You're not just someone that sits in an office and sees, you know, other people coming through.
I think it helps.
the
It's,
field.
but it's not the be all and end all. But
Still
yeah, I mean, you want to
practitioner.
coach. If you were a weightlifter, you'd want to coach who'd weightlifted before, or
Yeah, but
you know,
but even for yourself, like I think, like I don't like you know, you're not working on handstands, right? But you're training, you're doing strength work, you're doing mobility work, you're here in the gym. So I'm like, cool, he gets it. You know, it's not exactly the same as maybe what I'm doing, but it's close enough.
yeah,
You're living that life.
Yeah.
You know?
I distinctly remember
That muscle life.
a video earlier on this year of him doing his handstand work. Joe, do you remember with Funny?
Jared?
Yeah.
I thought it was a planche, the way he's handstand.
It was bad, whatever it
It
was.
was a crow pose.
It was gross. It certainly wasn't a handstand. I promise you that.
Have a good weekend.
Man, I wanted to ask a little bit on the science piece. There's a piece of anatomy, fascia, that gets spoken about a lot. People talk
Yeah.
about it. It's a bit of a buzz thing. Mobility, fascia, myofascial release, plantar fasciitis, biceps.
Bye.
Can you simplify what is it and how does it work? And you know, because people are fucking covered in the shit.
Yeah. Fascia, a good way to think about it is just like a sheath that goes around all your muscles and around the whole body. That's interconnected. And the fascial lines and stuff like that you're talking about are just muscle lines in the body. So this is where these roads of fascia will go up and around. So it might start at one ankle, wrap all the way around to the opposite shoulder, or be from your heels to the back of your eyelids, stuff like that. And, you know, there's arguments that fascia affects everything, and then some people are very dismissive and says it's not that important, but it's definitely somewhere in the middle at the moment. It's still a big grey area into how important it is, but yeah, that's basically what fascia is.
Yeah, okay. And so I guess so. It's a type of soft tissue, and then alongside that you have muscle, tendons, and ligaments.
Yeah.
Muscles, tendons, and muscles contract. They have contractile properties. Tendons and ligaments, same, but fascia no. Like, is fascia just a dormant kind of? Is it like a piece of glad wrap, or does it have
Contractile
Yeah.
properties? No, it won't contract, but it'll shorten and lengthen depending on like the positions you put it in.
right?
So if you were in a bad posture all day, the argument is that fascia will get shorter and be more stuck in that position, and then that influences the muscles,
Yes. Okay.
right? So it's harder to pull out that fascia and get it into a good position because it's bent over and curled forward, I guess.
Yeah,
Is
okay.
fascia the stuff that it can get thicker? Can it get thicker? Is it not like you can get build-ups in it? Is that what I've seen, like frozen shoulder before? They have it get over there and you see like it's just kind of like locked in position. It's grown around to stabilize there. Is that what I'm looking at?
I think that would be a lot more muscular, but just say something did freeze around there, the fascia in turn would get a lot shorter as well.
Yeah.
So, but it's hard to say to what degree it influences things. It definitely does something. But I don't have a strong opinion on it either way.
Yep.
So with ART, you're not focusing necessarily on fascia. Are you?
Not specifically, but you'll find like if somebody ripped their hamstring, there's no doubt that the muscles above and below, they're going to have a fair few adhesions. And whether that's from the fascia
What
getting
are adhesions?
shorter. Adhesion is, so if you rip a muscle, if the fibers run parallel to each other. So just think of muscle fibers as lines that run parallel.
So if I'm looking at if I hold my arm out, I look at my bicep, and I think like from my elbow to my shoulder.
Up.
So it's running. The fibers are running up and down my arm.
That's a good way to think of it.
Yep.
So if you rip it, just say you got a tear, just a minor one, what happens is to heal that, the mechanism the body does is repairs it as quick as possible, which is good. It means you can go back and do things. But the bad thing is it doesn't really take a lot of care to do it. So instead of running in those lines like the muscles were before, it heals as quick as possible and it goes across, right? So it patches it from all angles, and in turn it makes a knot or an adhesion. And that adhesion is going to be a lot tighter. It's going to make it harder for the muscle to lengthen and contract, and it's going to be weaker. So that's a guarantee.
You're gonna be weaker, and you're gonna have less range of motion there.
You'll have less range, and
Right.
you can usually feel it if it was a decent tear. Like if you've torn your bicep before and you haven't got much work on it, when you straighten your arm, you know where you tore it.
Yeah.
So
Just stop straightening your arm from then on, Joe.
They're just sitting
that's
around
the
with
way
pen tails.
forward,
Just
hey?
start just curls, and that's
I feel
it.
you.
That's what I've got now. So
Yeah. That's how I view it, but I think most people would, and that's what I influence a lot with soft tissue work, I guess. So with soft tissue work and training, you can get those muscle fibers, I guess, running the right way. So you get that adhesion out,
Right.
and then that tissue can become strong again. But if you left it, it'll never be as strong.
Yeah. Okay.
All other things being equal.
And then obviously that's going to influence what's happening downstream from it. It's going to affect your shoulder function or maybe your wrist function. Like there'll be ramifications in the future.
You would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Do you typically you tear in a muscle, does fascia get torn?
No. Well, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
a good
okay.
question. I've never really seen it, no.
People can kind of visualize fascia if you think about, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you're eating like a chicken drumstick, for sake of example, it's got those nice little segments that you can pull apart, and it's all muscle, but those different segments are covered in fascia. Is that right? That's what separates them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to sum it up. So it's just like a sheath
Yeah, right.
that goes over everything.
Yeah, okay. Muscles, tendons, ligaments, and not bone. It goes over bone too. It goes over all of it.
Well, yeah, it's just over everything.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Holds it together.
Yeah.
can I ask you about a completely different topic?
Yeah.
Poker.
Yes. Yeah.
Poker.
Mm-hmm.
You're a keen poker player, are you not?
I am.
How's that going for you? Because I gather you're pretty into it. You do comps and stuff like that.
Yep. So I've played poker pretty competitively for 2.5 years or so. It's going well. It's pretty volatile. So the type that I play is tournament poker. So if you buy in for, say, $100,
Yep.
there's a 90% chance or 85% chance that you win nothing. But if you're in that top 15%, you can double your money or 10 times your money and so on. So you could see how that could be really volatile. You could play 10 tournaments and lose pretty substantially most of the time.
I'll go straight to my main question.
Yeah.
Are you up?
I'm up, yes.
My man.
Yeah.
He's up.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I've
good.
had a bit of good luck in...
The last 2.5 years?
Not luck, mate. It's
recently?
not luck, mate.
It's not
No,
luck.
it was.
Not
It
numbers,
was.
is it?
Yeah,
It's numbers.
yeah.
You're counting.
Nah, I mean, there's so much variance and luck that does go into it. And there's definite skill component, but it helps to be lucky at the right times.
Right on.
Yeah.
How'd you find yourself in that?
I had a client who played online I thought that was pretty cool because I'd seen it on TV, and he was in Sydney for a World Series of Poker circuit game, which I knew nothing about. And he went and he was talking about that, and he was playing like pretty high stakes. He's very good. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So we ended up hitting it off. And so I fixed his back, and he was a keen power lifter, and I was doing his programming and stuff. And I started playing, and I sucked. I was just losing. I was getting a bit frustrated. I go to him, "Can you show me how to play?" And he's like, "Oh, usually charge like $100 USD an hour. But look, you fix my back. If you want to do a exchange, I'll just teach you how to play poker, and you can keep doing my powerlifting program and help me manage my back." So we did that, and we had some immediate success, and that arrangement still stands today. So he's a
cool.
really good power lifter. He lives in another country, but I still do his programming and know enough about his back and his mechanics that can make it work. And then if I have poker questions, I still ask him. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Have you ever versed him in a poker game?
Yeah. So we came first and second in quite a big tournament once with 500 people.
Fuck.
And so he invited me last minute. I was like, I got some tax things coming up. Rather not do it. He's like, just come. Don't be a pussy. I was like, right. That's all it takes. Just call me a pussy. I'll end up doing what you ask. And so I went, and we ended up coming 1 and 2 in it. So it was pretty sweet.
That's cool.
Head to head.
Well, yeah, we'd done a deal at that point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, there was still money on the line.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah.
What do you? I don't know that much about poker. I've played a few poker nights and never kind of caught the bug. I remember my friends all kind of getting into it and going to poker nights.
Texas Hold'em was a
Texas
real
Hold'em
thing for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the version I play.
Early
Okay.
2000s, I suppose. And
Yeah, that was the golden era, apparently.
okay, it
Early
was fun.
2000.
Yeah, I went to like a couple of nights around Glebe at different pubs and stuff like that. But I don't really know that much about it. But I see it's really funny. Like, I occasionally see it on TV. Like, and people, you got all sorts of characters. What's your character when you're there? Do you take on a persona? Do you have like glasses on? Do you have a little troll doll?
What do you think it would be? Could you see me?
I'd probably deadpan dry. Just
Yeah.
great poker face.
Yeah, that
Few
probably
words.
sums it up. Oh, I
Do
chat.
you wear a hat or anything like that? Feather in
No,
it?
I tend not to cover my face or...
It's a big part
or
of it,
hat.
isn't it?
For a lot of people, but I've got the idea that not that many people are good at live reads. Some are really good, and you want to be quite cautious that they'll pick up information, but most of the people who are staring at you, it's like, you don't know what you're looking for.
Yeah, right.
So, I just sit there.
I ask because I
probably
really
take a
like
bit-
that part of it.
You probably take a bit of pleasure in that too.
Yeah. Sometimes they just get it really wrong. They think they have a read on you, and they go with it, and they're
Do you
really
like
wrong.
smile at them and shit? Is it that kind of thing? Or do you tend not to acknowledge the other
Set
people?
traps.
It's very discretionary. So if I think they're good, I just won't give them any help.
Right.
So I'll just make them figure it out. If I think they could make a mistake, I might. If they try to goad me into talking, I'll talk with them.
Oh, conversation.
Yeah, if they want to talk, and I think, well, then it just turns into a metagame. So if I can outwit you, you're thinking you're picking up information. Well, I'm giving you fake information.
See, this is the interesting part of poker for me.
And this is happening face to face, or this is happening online?
This is face to face. I play
Yep.
face to face.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
Fascinating pastime.
yeah, it's strange, isn't it?
It is.
I didn't know too much about it till I met him, but I got really into it.
You obviously talk about it with your coach, your friend,
Yes.
who taught you. Do you spend a lot of time training that aspect of the game, or is that more just like you train the numbers and the cards and the probabilities and stuff, and then that's just kind of informal talk?
Yeah, there's no way of training that, I suppose.
I feel like you're training it all the time.
What, being dry and deadpan?
Yeah.
It's just what he is.
It's just what I'm doing. Yeah, that's just my persona.
It's just
that's
his
who
head.
I am.
You're good at it.
Thank you.
I'd think that I'd hate to play poker against you.
Hey, I wanted to cut back to the bodywork thing, and I wanted to tell you my story and
Go
see
for
what
it.
you think.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a cautionary tale here for people listening. So I had this carpal tunnel issue. My wrists. I had this numbness in my hands, and numbness, pins and needles, both hands. It would be intermittent. Like I'd get it throughout the day, particularly if I wasn't moving much or my hand was elevated, almost like blood was running out of it. But I would get it the worst when I was sleeping. And so it would wake me up every night. It went on for about 2.5 years. And it would wake me up every night at about 3 a.m. And I'd wake up and my fucking hand would be like on fire. It would be so numb that it was hot. And I have to get out of bed and like go move around a little bit, shake my hands, and then it would kind of settle. And this would happen all the time. And I just got used to it. And then I was like, I got to fucking do something about this. And at the same time, I had been... It coincided with me starting to work on handstands and the whole movement thing, right? So I hadn't ever really gone into that, and then I was into it, and then probably about 10 to 12 months in, it was like these symptoms, right? So I saw a couple of friends of mine who were in the movement community who are total legends. One's a physio, one's a chiro. I caught up with them, and they were like, "Oh, you should check out your neck." Because they're like, you're a jiu-jitsu guy, you've probably got some neck issues. That could be referring some nerve pain down to the hands. So I did some work with them, checking out my neck. We did some massage, some manipulation, some acupuncture. Nothing really resolved, but I continued with that. Then I went and saw they referred me to this other chiro who was the one I mentioned before, the guy in the office with the shoes and the shirt and the pants. I went and saw that guy, and he was doing like a lot of like Graston treatment, which was like scraping a metal implement, on various sort of tissues around the wrist and the neck and the forearm. I had an MRI done on my upper spine, and it showed that there was a couple of little disc issues, nothing major, but a bit of bulging and impingement. So was having work done on all those areas. And like 12 months, 18 months into having regular treatment, nothing had changed, right?
I remember that time.
You remember it, right?
You were pretty down.
It was fucking with me. And once I started to realize, man, this has been ruining my sleep for a long time, I was like, this is really not good. Like I can't put up with this. So we kind of exhausted all the avenues with that current chiro, and he said, mate, I reckon you should go and get a nerve conduction study done. So I booked in with a neurologist. He did a nerve conduction study, which, to explain to people, is where they test the speed at which a signal can pass from one point to another along a nerve. So they put like a little sensor on one side of your wrist and then the other one on the other side, so one on your hand, one on your forearm. And it showed that the signal was getting through very slowly. So he's like, there's a blockage at the carpal tunnel, so yes, you have carpal tunnel syndrome. I was like, all right. So that then meant it wasn't a neck-related thing. It was like there's a blockage at the carpal tunnel, and that's why I'm getting this pain, so I got to fix the thing. In amongst all this, I'd seen other friends of mine, like, I have friends in the health field, so I'd chat to them about it, and they go, oh, let me take a look at it, and I'd get some dry needling done or some massage or whatever. And I literally had people massaging forearms, needling, like I kind of tried a bit of everything. Booked in with a surgeon because I'm like, well, the conduction study's pretty definitive. The chiro's like, mate, we've done everything we can, including like trying to change the pillow I slept on and all those sorts of things. He said, I think you should have the surgery done. So I went and saw a surgeon, and the surgeon said, yep, we can do the surgery. We're going to cut the tendon. It's going to release pressure, blah, blah, blah. Booked in to have the surgery. Had the surgery booked for like 8 weeks from that date. Was back training jiu-jitsu a couple of weeks later, told this to my training partners at the time, and there was a fella that they had been seeing in the city, while also operating out of a little office space, a guy by the name of Michael Neal, and he was referred to as the Wizard. And they said, you should go and see the Wizard. And I was like, man, I've fucking seen everyone. Like, I've spent so much money on this thing. I've already seen, like, all the people that I respect and a bunch more. And they said, yeah, but just go and see him. And I was like, all right, I'll go see the guy. So I booked in with the guy, went into his office. He was wearing the same thing.
Wizard hat.
Yeah, wizard hat, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Streamers and shit.
Yeah.
He was like tiny little office. He had the shirt, he had the trousers, shoes, and he's like, hey man, what's the problem? And I said, I've got carpal tunnel syndrome, blah, blah, blah. Here's my quick story. Here's the MRI, blah, blah, blah. And he said, cool. And he just nodded and smiled. And he said, we can fix that. He said, it's going to take about 15 minutes and it's going to be painful. And I was like, all right, dude, let's see what you can do.
Put a spell on
Whatever.
The guy sat me down, went to work. He just checked my back real quick. He laid me down, checked my upper back, checked my neck. He's like, yep, there's a bit of stiffness, but he's like, for the most part, the back's good. He's like, cool, let's have a look at your hands. Grabbed my hand, moved it around a little bit, went up to my elbow, and then he's like, okay, we start working. And all he did was dig his thumbs into certain areas of my forearm, release, and move my arm around into some positions. And it was fucking excruciating, right? Like it was like he was playing a guitar, like picking at different strings through my forearm and getting into like tissue that I didn't know was there. My fingers were, he's doing the thing and my fingers are extending and contracting, and he did that for about 5 minutes on one arm and 5 minutes on the other. And immediately, like following that session, I was walking back out of the city, jumping on a train back to Bondi. 90% of the discomfort had resolved. A week later, 90% of it was still resolved. 2 weeks later, 90% of it was still resolved. I went back in for a second treatment with him. It was gone. I asked him when I should come back. He said, you probably don't need to come back for a long time. He said, you just got built up like a blockage of energy, as he called it. So there's a blockage of energy at the forearm, and so it's pooling at your wrist, and that's why you're getting this problem. He said, so all we did was just unblock it at the elbow, and he said, now the energy can flow back out.
The energy can flow.
Yeah.
Energy, right? And I was like, dude, I don't give a fuck what you call it. You just saved me a surgery. And I did 2 treatments with him, and that was it. And I think I've been back maybe once over the years because what I've realized is that the nature of the training that I do get a bit of tension in my elbows and forearms. And I go back in there and he just gives me a little tune-up and it gets sorted. But I also get, say, you or whoever else is treating me to work on the same thing and can kind of take care of it.
It's a very interesting story, and it's one that I've heard a few times. But back when active release technique was becoming a thing, so the guy who invented it's a chiro from Canada called Mike Leahy, and he found that there was a lot of limitations with traditional chiro. So he's like, we can influence a lot of the nerves I want to influence, but there's still so many more that I can't. And so the system's flawed. And so he went away and he found a way to influence the muscles and the nerves in their own way, kind of with his chiropractic problem solving, but it's just an area that they weren't taught to touch. So he went away and he developed this system and he was fixing a lot of people, but he decided to start to put it out there. He got encouraged by a few people, like, this is saving lives, basically. You need to go show people. So he went to lecture to a bunch of hand specialists who were doing surgeries on hands, and he goes, look, I've got a system that can fix carpal tunnel. And they were very dismissive at first, as, you know, experts in their fields can be. So they think, you know, my method's the best. This is how you solve carpal tunnel, and it's surgery. It's the best way to do it at the moment. He's like, send me your 3 best or 3 worst cases that you've got down that need surgery. And there's, you know, no argument that they need it, and that's the only way to fix them. So he went away and he fixed all of those people with active release technique, with carpal tunnel. So that's kind of like the originating story, and it's in all the ART books that we get to learn the protocols. It's really similar to your story, and it sounds like what your guy was saying is an awful lot like ART, except the lines that he's calling energy, it's a nerve entrapment. So
it's a terminology thing.
Well, yeah. He's getting rid of adhesions that are blocking the nerves.
Yes.
So that's where that's coming from. But I think your friends were right too. By saying what you had, the first area you want to get cleared is the neck.
Yeah.
If you're getting numbness and your hands are really inhibited, especially with what you do in jiu-jitsu, they were right to go straight to the neck. It's just that wasn't the problem.
Such a good story.
So real. I think back and I'm like, man, I'm so fucking glad I went, because I would have had the surgery, and, you know, they say there's no side effects, but it's like, cutting a tendon in the base of my palm, I'm sure it's going to have some kind of trade-off to grip strength or, even just getting cut open. It's like you don't want to get cut, plus it's going to cost you thousands of dollars.
And it might not have fixed it?
It wouldn't have hearing that because the obstruction was higher up.
The elbow was, it was still a thing, right?
Mm.
I mean, that's the crazy thing. But it was like, I was like, I've done everything and I'm being a responsible kind of, like I'm being very objective about this and I'm seeking the information and that's what I came to. And then it was just on that off chance I'll go check this dude out. And I was like, motherfuck.
But that happens so often. You'll hear of people with injuries, the same thing that happened at my hip. Thought I was going to have to get surgery. And then when they find the right practitioner who can just pinpoint that problem, even if they've seen a lot of competent specialists beforehand, sometimes just takes a different view, or for, a massage therapist or an active release technique person or a chiro, just to put their fingers on somewhere and go, no, there's something there, to find the root cause. It's just, sometimes it can just be really lucky. Like someone said off the cuff to Joey, you need to see this dude. And that guy figured it out. But
the crazy shit was other body workers had worked on my elbows.
Yeah.
They'd massaged, they'd put needles in, they'd done all that stuff. And it just was different.
It sounds like he had a system though. So he's tracing, he's going up everything, he's palpating everything. He's like, something here, something here, something here.
Yeah.
And then if he's cleared that and there's still a problem, then it's probably time for surgery.
My man. Hey, I wanted to ask you a question. I'm thinking you might have a general recommendation here. But you treat a lot of people. You see a lot of people in our gym.
Yep.
And safe to say most people who are adults, so people in their 30s and up, are carrying some kind of injury, some kind of, dysfunction, whether it's a bad shoulder or an old knee injury or fucking, a chronic little lower back thing, whatever it is. Is there like one or two or a few things that you think general population could do better in looking after themselves in that realm, whether it's seeing someone like you regularly or it's devoting an amount of time each week to stretching or getting on a lacrosse ball?
All of that stuff helps. So it's the same with training and moving. The more you can do things to look after yourself, the better you're going to feel. But if you're trying to train at a reasonable level and ask a lot of your body, there's going to be a certain amount of adhesions or shit that builds up in the muscles, right? You're asking a lot of it, and just slowly and insidiously dysfunction will creep in. It's just like if you have a messy room or you've cleaned your room, over the course of a week, it's going to get messy if you're not conscious of it. So the same happens to your body. So you just need to put in place a system that's going to address these as it goes. So you might find, every 3 weeks, I just find that my back starts playing up and I start to get tight in the hips, but I can sort it out if I go get treatment, or it sorts out itself if I stretch for half an hour every week on Friday or something like that. So you just need to put in place a system to manage these things is probably the best recommendation.
And everyone's got a slightly different system. It kind of comes down to getting to know your own body and kind of being the keeper of your own history.
Fully.
Totally.
Yeah, your onset might be quicker as well. You might find I just need my weekly massage or else shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
It's just dysfunction will creep in, and that's a guarantee, especially as you get older and your training age increases and you move more weight and you ask more of your body. So you just need a system to address that, or you're going to spend a lot of time not training or not getting the most out of your training.
I love having you downstairs or here the whole time. It was like you walked in the other day and I just looked at you. I was like,
I need you today.
Yeah.
Do you have time?
Yeah. It's been super good having you here for us as individuals, but for the members as well. Just having someone who can do the body work, who knows what's going on in the classes, who's living that life and can go, yep, I can do some work on you, and 99 times out of 100 you can sort their problem out. It's super valuable.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I think it works quite well. It definitely seemed to align with what you guys were doing, me coming in here. So it's been a good fit.
You're a decent bloke as well.
That's a lie. But I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But it's wrong.
Yeah, me, bro. I'm a sincere guy. So I got 3 main takeaways from our chat today. We're going to wrap it up in a sec.
Sure.
Let me throw those out. The first is you want to, if you're looking for someone to help you with a thing, but let's keep it in this realm of body work, niggles, whatever. You want someone that can fix you. Choose someone who knows what you're actually doing in your training. Choose someone that has an awareness of what your training looks like. I believe that goes a long way. The second part that I picked up from our chat was that the onus is on you as the client to ask the questions of the person who's treating you. Find out what they're doing. Find out if they have a system. Find out what their belief is as to why you have that problem so that you can start to learn if they're the right person for you. Don't just accept blindly what they're telling you because, as we mentioned before, there's people out there that are busy, tired, shit practitioners, whatever, and you could be sitting in a room with one of them multiple times and shelling out a lot of money. And the third thing is what you just mentioned, put a system in place to manage your own body. And you've got to find out what that system is. You might be the kind of person that likes to lie around on a foam roller every day before you train, and that might be enough to mitigate your dysfunction. Or you might be a bit lazy to that and you don't like stretching. So you find that getting a massage every week or every 2 weeks is your system. That works better for you. But having that system is what's most important.
Or people who aren't part of a gym who are listening might need to begin doing a bit of exercise.
Yeah, start fucking moving, man. J-Bone, thanks for coming in today, bro.
My pleasure.
Tell
Thanks,
us,
boys.
how can people get in touch with you? Where can they find you if they want to know more or if they want to book in?
Yep. Usually you can see me around the gym if you're a member of Jungle Brothers. So you just pull me up and say hello. Otherwise, you can find me on Instagram. So it's Jarrod_Thatcher.
Spell it.
JARROD THATCHER. And otherwise, you can get in contact with me through Facebook as well. So you can just find me on Messenger, same spelling.
Nice, Jarrod Thatcher. Yeah, we'll put a link to your Instagram account and shit on our Instagram post anyways.
Yeah.
And if people just want to know more about it and how treatments work and stuff, they should reach out.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you have any questions about ART or how I treat things, feel free to get in contact. So.
And you can actually also check our blog on the JB blog. Jarrod wrote a blog a while back about what ART is. So if you would like to know a little bit more about it, that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Go to that blog, have a little read. There's some testimonials there to give you a really good overview of how the process works and what the benefits are.
Yeah, and your Instagram's got some cool stuff in there too.
Yeah, you're putting a lot of good little rehab drills and stuff up there.
Yeah. So you can check out that and then see if our views of the body align, and if they do, it might be a good fit. So there's enough in there to kind of see the way I'm thinking, and if it aligns with what you're doing, it might be a good fit, yeah.
Nice, brah. Thank you, man.
No worries. Anytime.
You,
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Joseph.
Thanks, listeners. That was episode 37 with Jarrod Thatch. Jungle Brothers, you can find us at junglebrothers.com. If you want any help with your training, or you want to know more about our internships, or you just want some fucking help finding a good gym near you, get in touch. There's a contact us or a learn more button, and you can just flick an email to us. We are running our internship for currently halfway through the 2019 one. We have one booked in for late February or early March next year. Spots are half filled, so if you are interested in it, just reach out and I can give you some more information. I am also running a retreat in Sri Lanka in February 2020. So that's next year, 23rd of Feb, 6 nights in Sri Lanka with my friends Josh and Casey Cordoba. So if you're interested in a little training adventure overseas and an escape and learning some mad shit from us, reach out on that too. Thanks, listeners. If you enjoyed this episode and you know someone that might benefit from listening to it, please send them a link so they can have a listen too. Thanks, fam.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.